Hi, everybody. It's your host of Freedom to Fight, Anura Mathis. And I've got another exciting guest on my show, Aloia, a martial artist of 22 years.
Martial artist of 22 years, almost 23. Really just a lot of Aikido, Judo, and Olympic fencing. Author, I am the author of Aikido Comes to America and Takahiko Ishikawa, Judo's Quiet Master. I am the editor-in-chief of Martial Arts of Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, which is my own little online chronicle where I put all my research.
That's pretty cool. Well, welcome to the podcast.
Okay, I'll start with my introduction. Hi, everybody. It's your host of Freedom to Fight, Anura Mathis. And I've got another exciting guest on my show today. Antonio Aloia is a martial artist of 22 years. I'm very excited to talk about all of your experience. I'm on the complete other end of the spectrum, just a few years in. He's also an author times two. Get to talk about your books today, and he's a historian. So I'll turn the mic over to you so you can kind of elaborate on all your titles and your experience.
So, thank you for having me. So just to go down the list first, martial artist of 22 years, almost 23. Um, so which is really just a lot of Aikido, Judo, and Olympic fencing. Author, I am the author of Aikido Comes to America and Takahiko Ishikawa, Judo's Quiet Master. That's more of a biography. And, historian in a way, which is through my two books. But also I am the editor-in-chief of Martial Arts of Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, which is my own little online chronicle where I put all my research, which is interviews, editorials, articles, anything in between.
Yeah, that's awesome. I missed that little bit, but I know that that's the name of your is this your website, right? That martial arts of yeah. So we'll get into all of that. I'm excited to have you on my show today, and perhaps you can educate me a bit because I don't know anything about Aikido. Really, I don't, but I know jujitsu has origins in judo, and I learned takedowns in that regard, and but I'm more kind of focused in the MMA side, what you would see at the UFC type martial arts. So yeah, educate me. Tell me a bit more about yourself, like what got you interested in martial arts.
Yeah, sure. So, like 22, 23 years ago, I was a kid and my parents actually did Aikido. So it was kind of just that way of, hey, we're going here anyway, let's get the kids involved. So it wound up being me, my parents, and my sister getting really involved in Aikido. Um, so that that is actually furthered on that, that my sister and I are helping my parents, actually more so my dad, work at the dojo because we've been in the area, the Collinsville area, for um, 20 plus years now. So my sister and I help out around the dojo with teaching and scheduling and all this other fun stuff. So I mean, it's kind of become not only just a personal endeavor, but like a family endeavor. And then from that, that's kind of made me more interested in the history of Aikido and actually everything else in between.
Antonio, let me ask, speaking of family, are you married? Is that what this ring is?
Oh no, this is just a fidget. because I just get really anxious. Am I am not married yet.
Okay, okay. This is a very peculiar ring. Is this it's a ring within rings.
Yes, yes, it is. And yeah, my mom got it for me. And usually when I do these interviews, either with other podcasters or with my research subjects, my my hands are actually always underneath the camera view. No one's really asked me about it, so
Well, I like rings and I prefer to wear them on my middle
hmm
um fingers, but I moved and I forgot all of my rings. I left all of them at the old place and I didn't go back to get them. So I'll start over with new rings, but I prefer something on my hands normally. But of course when I'm training, I can't even wear my watch normally. So 'cause we're grappling, yeah.
yeah.
So you started, way back when you were a kid because your family was already involved in Aikido and, so you kind of got involved with your other siblings? You got siblings?
Yeah, I just have one other sibling. We're actually a year apart. I'm the older.
Okay. Is it you said that you used to have is that what you said? You used to have a sibling or
Uh,
you have a younger sibling?
I have a younger sibling. Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. I have it's a sibling that has passed away, so I wanted to make sure I didn't overlook that. Do you have a sister or brother?
Sister.
Sister, okay. Do
And
you
the
train with her?
yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes. You know, throughout the throughout our journeys, um, we both took some time away or off from training consistently. I only kind of took off a month, and that was just because of my own pigheadedness. But my sister took some more time off for again whatever reason she needed to. But funny thing is that we all came back after our time, and actually what's funny, and we'll probably get into this more, is that doing research for my first book, Aikido Comes to America, really made me like really committed to Aikido more so than it was before.
And why is that?
Because I actually went in and did a lot of research, and there was a lot of inspiration from the Japanese teachers and practitioners, and from the American students and later teachers. And it was like, oh my God, I want to do what they're doing, or what they're achieving within their training. And it's like this is now pushing me to to get better.
Yeah, yeah, to really
Before,
invest in it. Yeah.
yeah, no, but yeah, before it was just like, oh hey, it's a family thing. Now it's a family thing on top of something that really resonates with me.
Yeah, yeah. That's the best kind of experience is that, when you're a kid, as far as like religion, and spirituality goes, you kind of just do what your family does until you kind of grow up and develop your mind of your own and um, you get to make choices. You get to kind of reevaluate if that's a good fit for you, but it's nice when you realize it is and you really kind of commit to it. So, um, I don't even know if I've ever seen a keto. So it's a Japanese martial art.
Mhm.
Is are there any is it any grappling? Is it contact?
Yes, it is. It is contact. Um, just like judo and jujitsu, there's many different styles or approaches, I should say. Um, but the mainstream, the mainline one, there's contact. Um, if we're going to compare it to jujitsu, which is your baseline, um, the grappling happens kind of at arm's length instead of in really close. Um, so it kind of makes it, I guess, a little difficult to be like, hey, what is this? What is that sort of thing? Um, but Aikido, as it's traditionally practiced, is a grappling art. It is, arm's length grappling. But it also focuses on the flow and harmony between the two the two partners. So if you actually, it's best compared to like a flow drill in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where one person's just going through a few different techniques, and then it flips, and then they do a few different techniques again without like super hard or super live resistance, and then flip again. The only thing is that we're not grappling on the ground, we're grappling standing up at arm's length.
Okay. Okay. Well, that clarifies that picture a little bit. I've trained in wrestling as well, and that's that's a bit more, that's closer than at arm's length. But so in Aikido, are there takedowns, or it's everything is standing?
Everything starts from standing. There are takedowns. There's an arm takedown. There's a few head takedowns, but they're a little bit more. Again, I'm speaking more of the mainstream Aikido style, where it is a little bit more artsy and martial. Again, it's focused more on finding that cooperation and harmony and flow between the two practitioners, as opposed to I'm going to kind of uproot you from your leg or from your hip or whatever. Um, so yes, there are takedowns in a more kind of artsy, kind of standardized way. To answer your question, yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I should ask if I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of video of you training throughout your life. I mean, I would like to see, yeah, what it looks like for you to train.
Yeah, no, actually, there is just a few videos of me, I think, somewhere out there on YouTube. One one is when I was in, um, I think middle school, and I don't look like what I am today. And actually, there's some hidden stuff on YouTube, because the school, when COVID happened, for at least that first year, we started just to post videos to YouTube and share that just with our students. So, technically, I am on YouTube, but not of the most recent stuff.
I'd like to check that out, and you can send me anything that I can then add to this episode. But um,
Yeah, outside of Philly, about 40 some minutes outside of Philly.
okay, and that's of course where the dojo is.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I've got another guest that's she's a former MMA fighter out in Philadelphia, so got to make a trip out there. So maybe I could kind of incorporate coming to visit you. Um, my next stage in my podcast is to go and fight my guests, the people that have been on my show. So, and whatever martial art they're comfortable with, and really just for fun, not anything dangerous. But I feel like my audience would appreciate seeing me training and fighting. So I'm trying to incorporate that in my show a bit more. So okay. Um, so how does the other two martial arts? How did you discover judo? And yeah, go ahead.
So with judo, actually, before I even started doing any research for the book, I was actually in undergraduate college at Westchester University, and actually saw a sign in one of the stairwells saying, "Hey, there's a judo club." Like, oh, hey, that's cool. And it's like, oh crap, it's on Sunday. And I have things doing on Sunday, so I'm like, okay, well, I can't do that. So fast forward a bit, I'm actually doing the research for the book, and a good handful of the early Japanese, actually Japanese and American practitioners came from judo. So I wanted to, in the spirit of actually kind of like the lineage of these teachers, these students, and actually even Aikido, is to find and train judo. And I found that same Westchester Judo Club there probably about like 2 years later. So I started doing judo at the Westchester Judo Club. And then on top of that, it was connected um, with a standalone dojo called Mainline Judo, which was out in Bryn Mawr, which is actually a little bit south of Philly ish. But then the pandemic happened and they changed their name from Mainline Judo to Bryn Mawr Judo.
Okay, lots of changes in the pandemic, but I feel like if the pandemic for me, if the pandemic didn't happen, I don't think I would really explored martial arts as I did. I was looking for a self defense class because I was in a physically abusive relationship. I was able to get out of that relationship okay, and wanted to take some classes because I realized I really need to know how to defend myself. And it just so happened that my instructor was a former MMA fighter. So I learned everything that he was, teaching his members. But it was just kind of those three: Muay Thai,
Mhm.
wrestling, and jujitsu. Uh, but I think I should kind of explore a bit more into judo and other martial arts that may kind of help improve my game. So I should ask you, Antonio, have you competed is this a competitive sport like Aikido? Is this something that you can?
So Aikido, the mainline style, there are no competitions. There is one offshoot. That's probably not the best word for it, but there's one offshoot style of Aikido, uh, called Tomiki Aikido or Shotokan Aikido, depending on who you're really talking to. But they have instituted some competition, And what they focus on really is defenses from knife attacks. And I've talked to a few Tomiki Aikido practitioners, at least here in the United States, that say that, hey, this is great, but there's still some room to be improved upon because it was implemented during the 70s, I think. And there hasn't been much of a change between then and now. Um, but on the on the like mainstream side, no, there's not a lot of competition. And that actually goes off into a whole nother topic, because if we look at what the Japanese and both the American uh, teachers did, is that they already kind of came from an art, say judo or kendo or boxing or uh, karate, where they already knew how to fight per se, how to be in a scuffle. So then that previous training was actually put on top of their Aikido training. Um, so then here in the modern thing, I'm trying to make this short so I'm not monologuing. But in the modern sense, there's a small movement within the Aikido community to kind of branch back out into those, um, those ancestor arts or those kind of drills or competition based stuff that the previous, actually, like, 3 or 4 generations before actually had, so that they can make Aikido, or at least approach Aikido, a slightly different way from what the mainstream is usually teaching.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I've got a lot to learn. And you're the historian, so take your time in your answers. I'm really like brand new to all of that. And really kind of judo, just because I know some of the takedowns doesn't mean I know the history of judo. And I think that really does benefit my audience, is to know like where all of this comes from. And I started Freedom to Fight podcast because I knew prior. I'm a therapist, by the way, if you didn't know that. Um, I knew prior that science says that martial arts helps to heal trauma, and so I went to explore that kind of personally and found that to be very true. It's very empowering, and um, really changed my life for the better. So that was the basis of starting my show, and I can assume that Aikido and Judo and your experience in martial arts has influenced your mental health in some way. And so maybe we should shift, excuse me,
Yeah.
and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. In that sense, at least for me, I feel that when I go to Aikido and Judo, but more Aikido, that like there is a lot of, I won't say dumping, but just kind of like tuning out the outside world, um, and just focusing on the thing that you're doing right then and there. Have you actually felt any of that?
I have, yeah. I think that um, maybe I experience that all the time. I have a unique background, I guess. Maybe there's other people that have my background, but I'm from Texas. I'm from an environment that maybe doesn't value spirituality as much as I do. I grew up learning to meditate and like studying the philosophy of meditation and Buddhism. So I compare jujitsu, but really martial arts in general, as kind of a meditation. You really do t- tune out the rest of the world, and you're focused on. You kind of have to be, in jujitsu, and in all three of them, jujitsu, wrestling, and Muay Thai. you have to really be focused on what you're doing because you have very real consequences. Somebody's trying to choke you out or armbar you or punch you. you have to be you have to be very very in tune with what you're doing, in tune with your intuition. That's what I believe martial arts helps with. It helps to develop your intuition. So yes, I do experience that.
No, no, that's awesome. Um, actually, since you brought this up, I mean, have you competed in jujitsu, and have you felt that same feeling um when you compete?
Okay. I have competed. I don't have a lengthy history. I've only competed once, so I'll share this with you. And I have shared this many times on my show. I was preparing for my first competition a few years ago. This was around between August and October of 2022. Um, Mid October. So my competition was in November. So mid October, I sustained a concussion from one of my coaches, which completely eliminated that possibility of me competing. It was not an accident. It was unsafe training practices. It's just a lot of jealousy at my
Hmm.
gym. That's just to be frank. That's what was going on. It's not a lot of women that were there at the gym um, in general, and the women that were there were not as serious as I was about training. This is something that had recently changed my life, and I realized, oh, okay, I can take this to the next level and go and compete. So from my concussion and recovering from that, it took me months of time, nearly a year to find another gym that I felt comfortable at. So recently, just over the summer, I joined a gym that I thought would be a good environment. Turned out that it wasn't, but I competed and did have that experience where I was able to tune things out. But the competition wasn't, again, they weren't practicing safety.
Hmm.
I just kind of leave any environment it seems a little bit off, like maybe this is going to be okay, or it shouldn't be a question, when you have human lives. So I did experience that. I did win my match. Just was not a fair match because my competitor was my teammate at my home gym, and she was much younger than me. She was less skilled than I was, and I'm much heavier than she is, so it wasn't a fair competition. But I did experience that. I feel like maybe every time I train in jujitsu or we do live roles, which is closer to like competing, um, I experience that every time. So I feel like I'm connected with the true essence of jujitsu when I'm training in jujitsu.
No, that's really cool. You know, I've I've also seen a lot of stuff, especially within like the jujitsu community. I know I'm not a part of it, but I'm part of a lot of groups on social media. But like one of the like major themes that comes up almost every month is that like, hey, this gym is like way far out there for for some reason. So I don't know why do you think, maybe more from like a um psychological level, but like why is it so hard for some practitioners to find like a decent gym or a decent school to just be like, hey, this is fine, as opposed to like, people not taking safety into account.
You know, this is going to be a complex answer. I'll do my best to answer it from my perspective, of course. But I had Rob Ingram on my show, McDojo. He's exposing gyms that are not practicing safety, or, that there's predators that are owning these gyms. I think it's just kind of indicative of human problems, like just issues within groups in general. And the main issue is ego. I think that that's it's very empowering to train in martial arts, I think, and kind of sets you apart because not everybody does it. And I feel like some people feel like, well, I have these skills now. It makes me better than you. And, I can get away with things that other people can't get away with. But I've said this recently, like in our social services, that same attitude or corruption is there. Like, we need to just like agree as a human race that this is just a problem and it's a pattern, that people abuse their power. So we need something in place to oversee that, to try to prevent people from abusing their power and trying to sleep with their members, or abuse children. Like, these are issues that exist in our society anyway. And so looking at martial arts gyms, and, just I've experienced a lot of like cattiness and from women. And I mean, in a lot of gyms, I toured maybe 10 different gyms over the past few years trying to find the right place. And even the last two that I joined or took, long a week long trial, like I experienced that there too, regardless of me interviewing some of their members, or, like it just doesn't matter if a gym doesn't make it a point to really oversee that, make sure there's no bullying going on, make sure that there's no, jealousy or people that are bringing their outside stuff in. Like, I think it's just going to happen. There's no way for an instructor to have eyes on every member, and be able to see that if they don't have, a team of people that are looking out for it. Is they're already instructing the class. Like, it's hard to really look at that. And if we don't admit that it's happening, then there's really no solution for it. So that's my answer. It's just human problems just being expressed in a group of martial artists.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. It's just very disheartening because I mean, you kind of hear some of that. Like, I mean, I guess in the jujitsu world because it's more out there, but like if you get more towards like traditional martial arts like judo or aikido or even karate for some, at some degree, it's kind of like you don't hear that or sorry those issues as much, and it's kind of weird how there's that dichotomy of you have jujitsu that's like all out in the open, and then other arts that are just like, yeah, no, let's just close all that off, and even if we do have problems, we just won't talk about them.
I mean, I mean, I'm not the spokesperson for I mean, I'm still really pretty new. I just started training the middle of 2021. Um, but I feel like perhaps because jujitsu is popularized and utilized in the UFC, and like maybe that's why, maybe that's an answer. But I just feel like, yeah, people are just abusing it. It's taking away from its true essence. And um, I can say that maybe I'm a representative. I'm not a spokesperson, but I'm a because I'm a practitioner and I take it very seriously. I see jujitsu as a spiritual practice. Like, yes, it will help protect me. And but it's a way to reconnect to yourself. And so I don't think any of that should be going on in any of our gyms. But yeah, I don't think people are investing enough time to see those patterns. They don't want to admit their responsibility. And yeah, people just have to hold them accountable. So it's nice to know that if I explore other martial arts, maybe I won't have this issue as often.
Yeah, no, hopefully, hopefully.
I can assume, Antonio, that but correct me if I'm wrong, there's not a lot of women that train in Aikido, or is there?
It depends on the organization. There has been, and I want to speak generally, not to single out anybody for any one, but then again, who is actually listening to me at this point?
Well, I have a pretty big audience, by the way. It's an international audience, so a lot of people will hear you.
All right, can't wait. But there have been stories. Now, I don't want to say that they're anecdotal or they've been suppressed or this, that, and the other thing, because that's a whole other research topic in of itself. And I haven't done the due diligence for that yet. But again, broadly, generally speaking, there is a feeling that female practitioners within Aikido have felt um, the same things you have felt in in the gyms, in the schools, in the dojo, because sooner or later somebody gets it in their head that this is, you know, you know, to quote uh, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in the Bass and Rankin thing. Sorry, Rankin Bass. I definitely have to get that right. Is that this is man's work? It's like, well, no, it's not. It's everybody's work. But they get it in their heads that it's a boys' club, and they make it like it's a frat party or like a frat house. So in recent years, I think since 2019, some of the major um, American-based organizations have been trying to make um, more female practitioners and teachers uh, more public, even though we all work in the public sector. But yeah, they've been trying to make female practitioners a little more like, hey, this is important. And it's actually kind of funny because if you look at other martial arts, like I'm going to bring up HEMA, which is historical European martial arts. Um, they have, like, I think since at least 2010, from what I can figure out and decipher from, is that they made it a giant point to be, as a whole movement, to be inclusive. So those school websites actually have more material, or at least imagery, of being inclusive, whether it's a diversity statement, the pride flag, any other flag that's within that I guess area. I don't know how to truly define it, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, like there's the pride flag, there's all the other flags that have colors on it. Yeah, so it's a lot in there, well, a lot of, like, sexism, um, bullying, and racism don't have a home here. So, like, and again, I'm just saying, like, it's just completely different from how what these stories within, um or at least that I found within IQ's history here, have kind of demonstrated. Like, it's a complete 180.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the way to go about it, is to make sure that what the public eye sees is that we are making these changes. This is what we value, and Yeah, I think that's a great way of doing it. I mean, jujitsu has anti-bullying programs, because that's the essence of it is that if you know jujitsu, then you should be able to avoid most fights, just by your own behaviors. But if you are in a situation where you need to fight, then it's useful. But it's supposed to empower you in a way that makes you feel like you don't have to go pick on someone or like it shifts your perspective. So they teach anti-bullying, but there's a lot of bullying in jujitsu. So I feel like if that is the idea, let's change our environments. We could do it through websites. We could do it through, whatever the public visually sees, that this is what jujitsu is supposed to look like. Just being an example, and not covering anything up, that doesn't look ideal because for me, jujitsu and other martial arts helps to improve my mental health by um, empowering me, but also allowing me to, if you've ever heard this concept before in the therapy world, is it's allowing me to accept my shadow self. If you've ever heard shadow work or anything, it's like accepting the darker side of our ego. And for me, it was accepting that it's okay to be violent sometimes because violence is actually a part of our world. It's the
Hmm.
relationship that we have to it. Although my upbringing, I was like silent, like don't ever be aggressive, don't ever like, get angry or be in a fight. Like those were that's how I was conditioned with those principles. However, that really sets you up for viewing the world as violence is a separate thing and that'll never happen to me and until what you're in
Hmm.
a fight or you're being abused or something. So for me, uh, martial arts, but jujitsu specifically, helped me accept all parts of myself, including the darker parts of myself. So I think we just kind of need to do that as a whole in the martial arts community is just say, these are things we need to change. We need to
Hmm.
put a spotlight on it and just
No, absolutely. And like you said earlier, it's leading by example. Except people who do lead by example set sort of the wrong example. And I can only speak to the Aikido world. Is that some people who are leading by example have been there since day one, and and they are the senior members of the community. So they are so by that by itself, people are supposed to go to them for advice. And if they're giving the advice that worked in the 70s, and the 70s is a completely different culture than it was, sorry, than it is now, and the same holds true to the reverse. Some things that work then are going to work now. You know what I mean?
for sure. I mean, that's a pretty let me think. How many years is that? That's almost 60 years. We're
Yeah.
pushing that. Yeah. So of course things have changed. I mean, that's literally a whole person. So that's a whole generation away. Yeah, things have changed drastically and they're continuing to change as like these things are popping up on the news, drones and stuff, and people are looking into UFOs and like that's something that was comical
Mm-hmm.
back in the 70s or beyond that. Like um yeah, there was some interest, but I feel like it's a little bit different now. The way that we look at things that are unseen or strange or not explored that well. Um, yeah, so like you're saying, leading by example would really change all of that. Um, I've got a few more questions, so I want to know um, a bit more about your books. So
Okay.
maybe we could talk about your first book that you published. When was what is it? Martial Arts of Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow.
All right. So that martial arts of yesterday, today, and tomorrow is actually my website, and that actually started in 2019. The first post. Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Um, yeah. So the first post wound up being in December 2019. I got everything set up in November of 2019. So how that came about was that I was actually ending my graduate years at Westchester. I was finishing up my graduate degree, my master's degree in history. And I'm like, what am I going to do with my spare time besides finding a job? Um, you know, because I really liked going out and doing these interviews and being like, hey, this is important because there's a good number of interviews that I did that set the foundation for my book. And so martial arts of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, or I call it as my winds up just becoming the home for all my research stuff. So if there's interviews, boom, it goes there. If there's an editorial or there's a history article, it goes there. If there's a guest editorial or a thing that they want to do, it goes there. Fun fact: a good handful of my graduate essays wound up appearing in my ad. So nothing ever has gone to waste. And that has 2019. That's been going on for 5 years now. Actually, this month. Sorry, November was 5 years. This month is 5 years for the first post.
Sorry about that mix up. I
Oh, it's
have them
okay.
listed separate, but so Aikido Comes to America is
Mhm.
the name of your first book, and that was published around the same time as your website, or yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it published in September 2022. So your viewers know what I'm talking about. It's like Here Comes to America, a brief history of the arts American pioneers and their journey to the present. Um, which really went up to kind of was it like 2017? That was published in September 2022. Sorry, September 2020. I covered screwed up timing for me. But that was published through Tamboli Media. And that actually, the book started out as a undergraduate college essay. Funny enough. So in undergrad, there's this capstone course called History 400, which was essentially like, hey, you're gonna write and research like a historian. So here we go. I mean, I had like 4 or 5 classes in that final semester, and I cared more about writing that paper than anything else. I have no idea how I passed all my other classes because I'm more concerned about what's happening in 1964 in the Aikido world than what's happening in South America during the reign of the Spanish or something. It was I had so much going on in my head. It was like, should I just like drop out of those ones and just focus on this one? But um, I just knew by the end of that I wanted to turn it into a book. even though my professor at that time was like, no, maybe just make an article. I'm like, no, 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 I'm gonna make it a book. So that was summer of 2017. 3 years later, I publish Aikido Comes to America, and there is, I did interviews. I went, I actually even spent like one summer vacation just doing research, taking notes, and it was just like they're like, "Hey, Antonio, what are you doing? Like, I mean, you're supposed to be enjoying this vacation." Like, no, I'm just going to take notes. Um,
Well, when you find something you're passionate about, like you're saying in your final semester, it's hard to focus on things that you're not passionate about.
exactly. And it was actually from that semester on that I wound up having all of these um, like in-depth Aikido conversations with my father. More so than like, oh hey, what we do here. It's like, no, no, no. It's like more historical, more of political, more, excuse me, how is the future going to be? All this other fun stuff. Excuse me. So that was a joy, and it's so much of a joy that I'm thinking of expanding it in the near future, because there was a point where I was like, I need to stop because I can just keep going, and it's gonna be like this big, and it's like maybe not. So oh, yeah, you know what? Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm still in like the whole outlining version of it, because there's sometimes it's like, hey, I haven't done anything productive in like a week, so let me just like sit down and do one thing and not touch it for like 3 weeks, and then and then pick it up again. But maybe a series. But there's a lot of things that I want to, I guess, include during all that same time period that I did cover, because there was a lot of stuff that was happening.
Yeah. I mean, the time frame anyway. I started my graduate program in 2016 and I finished the end of 2019. I did 2 internships because 'cause I'm nuts. But I just yeah, a lot happened from that time frame to even now. I mean, I guess it's 7 years, but, um, I'm curious. So, I really do think it would be a good idea for us to meet and for you to maybe show me what Aikido looks like, so I can really integrate that in my community, but this is a passion project. I mean, it's nice that I'm also able to talk about mental health and
Hmm.
the ways that I've healed myself and am healing myself. Um, I'm glad that I'm able to integrate the two. So it's not just me talking about martial arts, which would be fine too. But I think that other element really helps me integrate this in my whole life. But um, yeah, so I have so many more questions, but okay, so your first book was published in 2020, September of
Hmm.
2020, and just recently you published another book.
Yes.
Yeah, what's the title of that book again?
So this one's a biography compared to the other one, or like Here Comes America. So this is Takahiko Ishikawa, a Judo's Quiet Master. So it is about a guy named Takahiko Ishikawa. Done. Now, so um, with him, he was a actually a two-time All Japan Judo champion that relocated from Japan over here in the Philadelphia area. And he at the time, I think it was either sixth or seventh dan in judo, and he was literally the highest ranked judo player or judo practitioner in America at that time. So he was he was kind of a pillar within Philadelphia Judo. The funny thing is, no one knows that he really existed. To give you um, a visual, he is on Wikipedia. He has less than 300 words about him, and well, I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but that really was like, hey, something needs to be done about this. Um, Actually, firstly, he was the instructor of the owner of Mainline Judo, who was connected to Westchester Judo. So there's kind of like a lineage there. Um, and you know, through through him, and through my own research too, I interviewed a bunch of his students that are still around since he came over in the late 50s. So he had uh, at least 30 years of students that I could try and find. But his story was actually a little depressing, but also he viewed judo as like his passion project. Like, that was his thing that he needed to do. And actually when his life was falling apart, his personal and family life was falling apart, he still kept judo going. Um, or at least he still kept teaching, he still kept doing it because that's the only thing that he really gravitated towards. That and Go, which is a an Asian board game where you're trying to get territory. Um, yeah, it's kind of difficult to explain without actually like a big visual, because it sounds like Monopoly, but not a lot of paying rent. It's a lot of trying to capture your opponent's territory. Think of like checkers. Oh no, think of what is it? It's like Othello, where it's the black and white pieces, and if you put them on each other's side, sorry, like if you like sandwich your opponent's pieces, they would flip to your color. It's something like that.
Okay. So he's focused on those 2 things outside of kind of life falling apart around him.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he did try to get his kids into judo, but it didn't work out as well as he thought. But he still kept judo as a consistency, as a constant within his life.
I mean, I can attest to that and to most, martial artists that I know that, that's what keeps them grounded is continuing to train. I mean, of course, life happens. Things pull you away from your training, and injuries will pull you away from training. But I feel like every time I come back to jujitsu and other martial arts, like my life improves. So maybe that's the idea that he had is as long as I keep this, maybe everything else will pass and get better.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think deep down this was like, yes, if I keep doing this, things will get better. But it was also something that he enjoyed doing. So I don't think it was like, oh yeah, I'm doing this to forget it. It was like, I'm doing this because I like this, because I want to be here.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. Okay, so second book is a biography of kind of a star person in the judo community, and um, are both of your books? available on Amazon? Is that where you can get them?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Both are available on Amazon. And if you like what you read, just leave a review, please. I would really appreciate it.
Yes, Antonio, if you are planning on making any audiobooks based on your books.
The thought has crossed my mind. I'm trying to figure out, I guess, how to specifically do that and how much I should budget for, or how much I shouldn't budget for. Um, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. The
I
thought has
really
crossed my mind.
enjoy Yeah, I really enjoy audiobooks. People have encouraged me to do that. I plan on writing books in the future. And I've had a guest recently on my show that has a book series, Get Out of Your Head to deal with
Mhm.
anxiety. And he turned that into audiobooks. And he told me the first time around that he didn't invest in the right way, meaning that it was really difficult his first time around, as most things are. And his second time around, he's like, oh, now I got this down. Now I know how to actually record and make this a quality sound. So same thing with this podcast. Like I've had so many issues. I'm not skilled in this, I just kind of decided from in the beginning, I just did audio, but then I
Mhm.
decided, well, maybe my audience needs to see what I look like and see my guest, and it will open the door to me actually like recording myself training and putting that on my show. And but it is not easy all the time to just edit video and make sure the sound quality is right, make sure your lighting is right, and some things are really difficult to fix if you don't get it right the first time. So it's just an idea because I really love audiobooks. I think that's um, something that kind of enhances my learning because I can do other things while I'm listening to podcasts or audiobooks.
No, right. Absolutely. I kind of do that with YouTube videos too. But no, I've been trying to figure out, here and there, how I should do the audiobook. If I should do it, if I should get somebody else to do it. God forbid I get AI to do it. But the thought has crossed my mind a few times.
There's all sorts of enhancements that you can add to your audio tracks, and I think it would be nice if you read your own stories, but just an idea. I do want to ask one more question about mental health, and then of course, if you have any more questions for me, I'll leave space for that, and then I'll ask my final question. So, um, I'm curious because the majority of my listeners are men. I always ask my guests regardless of gender, or biological sex, I think is the appropriate term to use rather than gender, but um because it's an expression.
Mhm.
I'm curious if you've ever been to therapy before. Have you ever seen a
Uh,
therapist before now?
yes, yes, I have. Um, and I've found that with doing that therapy, um, it kind of combines really well with the physical that I do in Aikido and Judo. It's kind of like that physical component to the mental, emotional, psychological component that therapy kind of covers.
Yeah. Well, good. I'd like to know about your experience in therapy. It sounds like it's been beneficial.
Um, yeah, it has been. I mean, it's kind of like trying to find, like that, like that perfect school or the perfect gym. Um, that you're willing to, impart all these things about and everything. Um, but when I have found the, I would say a really good match, it has been it has been very helpful.
Well, good. I mean, we can talk as deeply about that or as shallow about that as you'd like, but I'll share. I I guess I'm kind of biased because I am a therapist, but even before I became a therapist, I went to therapy, and I just find that to be very interesting rather than, I don't have a lot of anxiety around seeing a therapist. And um, although I can relate, sharing my problems with a stranger, I've always been very open minded with that. So I've seen several therapists throughout my lifetime. um, I currently have an EMDR therapist, and that's what type of therapist I'm an EMDR therapist, if you've heard of that term at all. Have you heard of
No,
EMDR?
I
No,
don't
no.
think I
Okay.
have.
I'll just say it briefly. So EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. So it's a trauma-based therapy. It was developed by Francine Shapiro, to treat PTSD in veterans, and now it's really kind of graduated to treating addiction and sleep disorders and anxiety, depression, an array of mental health conditions. But it really is, um, allowing the client to, it's like a self hypnosis. It's allowing the client to gain control of their mind, and infiltrate their own brain, their own brain processes, because trauma, a very general term, trauma, it's subjective to the person experiencing that, some sort of break in, what they break in reality. I mean, I know I'm kind of describing psychosis, but I think that trauma is a break in what we believe is possible of happening to us, or what life should look like. There's some sort of trauma. EMDR allows, the client to process that trauma. So, without therapy, people are able to, just with their own resiliency, able to overcome trauma, but sometimes it doesn't complete that process and it gets stuck. So it'll get stuck in our mind and it be expressed in our physical body through physical ailments or things like that. But EMDR is the intermediary. It will help allow the client, the person, to gain that control and process the trauma. So, um, I typically, so eye movements, you can do that traditional, hypnosis back and forth. There's sound bars, there's light beams that you can use. But I also do this where I'm crossing my arms, just that slow tap. You can do the butterfly like this, or you can do tapping on your thighs, but it's called bilateral stimulation. So you're just stimulating both sides of the brain, and it'll naturally process that trauma while you're talking about the trauma, of course. Some people are afraid to, try EMDR because they're not comfortable talking about what happened to them. But EMDR is designed to be effective in the first session. And in a few short sessions, you can process that trauma permanently and reap the benefits of that for the rest of your life. So I encourage that for anybody. I suffer from social anxiety, all forms. I'm very introverted, although I do have a public platform. It's because of things like EMDR that have allowed me to kind of overcome that a bit.
Well, that's actually really interesting. N- n- How how have you I guess have you seen any similarities in the EMDR approach compared to what you've experienced so far with martial arts?
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I feel um like at the beginning of training in martial arts, actually, I started taking the women's classes, so women's self-defense classes, and then realized that, oh, there's all of these other classes. There's MMA, there's Muay Thai, there's wrestling, there's jujitsu, um, and I joined those classes. But my first day, I had a full on panic attack, and I just was like, I don't know if I can do this. So I took some time away, and then I came back. But um, I feel like once I kind of was able to silence my mind a little bit and focus on what I was doing in the classes, once I kind of felt like I had a handle of it, it was like the same result. Like the same result that I got from EMDR. It's a permanent change. That's what I've felt in martial arts training is it's not there's no going back to who I was before. Like who I was before I didn't feel like I was capable of taking down a man and, submitting him or choking him out or whatever it is. Like I wouldn't have thought that I could do that before. So yes, it's been a very similar effect from EMDR to martial arts.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. So, I mean, do you also suggest your clients to take up martial arts in addition to your sessions?
I do. I mean, of course, I'm a bit biased, but that's the basis of this platform is to bring more awareness around mental health, but also martial arts. And yeah, I do. I encourage like everybody, men, women, and children to and they them every human being to train in martial arts. Whatever they feel comfortable with doesn't have to be MMA type, but I feel like being physically active is something that we kind of have to do better at in the United States is it needs to be incorporated more into our culture. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to stray away from these traditions and I'll go explore martial arts. Like, no, I think it should just be a part of what we're doing as human beings here because it improves our mental health. Our physical health and our mental health are not separate. They're intertwined. So if you're struggling with weight issues or if you're struggling with sleep issues, like it's going to affect your mental health. There's no separation. So yeah, I do think that every single person could benefit from martial arts in one way or another.
Absolutely. I I totally agree. But like you, I'm very biased.
But I also have to say this because some people, I've talked about this a lot on my show too. Like some people will say, well, martial arts is my therapy. Sorry to make the voice, but I feel like even people that say that know that they maybe shouldn't be saying that. Like
Saying that,
it is very therapeutic, but it's not going to replace therapy. Like yes, from my experience, martial arts has helped me accept my shadow self. However, I was in therapy years before I found martial arts. I did. By the time I found martial arts, I had done 7 years of school. I had done some training, clinical training. So I have now over 10 years experience in the mental health field. Like I had a lot of exposure to what mental illness looks like, how to heal yourself, through different modalities. Like I wasn't going into martial arts completely unhealed. I had a lot of trauma, but I was also healing myself. And that's what I have to say to everybody that's listening. It's it's not just go to martial arts and everything is fixed. You should make sure that you know what you're bringing into the door so that the environments are safe, like you shouldn't go be a problem in any group, but especially a group that you're using human beings, you're using these techniques on human beings. You need to be safe. So it's not one or the other. I think it's both therapy and martial arts.
yeah, absolutely. I I I totally agree. Because like I said before, martial arts does or at least covers the physical aspect, at least for most people, and then therapy covers the other stuff that martial arts don't, that that they don't cover. So it's then with these two activities, it creates that holistic approach, or at least that holistic result that I think is working for probably more people now than ever.
Yeah, yeah. I agree, and I will say that I don't find them to be separate. Like, the entry point to martial arts is through the physical, and the entry point to, therapy is through our mental and our emotional body, but I feel like they all end up in the same place. So, it starts in one place, but it affects all of us. Yeah, so they're both beneficial and both are needed, I believe.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, Antonio, I have just one. Well, I've got a couple more questions, but I think I will just reduce it to the one question. Do you have anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to ask me before I do that?
One thing I want to ask you, and it may sound way, way, way out left field, but I should preface it that in doing more research, I've been going through the more academic themes, and there is a relationship between martial arts and their female practitioners. And what I want to ask you is, does doing jujitsu or martial arts make you feel more feminine, more masculine, or a combination of both?
Hmm, that's a good question. That's nobody's ever asked me that question. Um, I think that I think both. I think that I've always considered myself to be more masculine, which I know to some people is really strange, but I'm a very deep thinker. So I'm always using my mind and wanting to create things from my mind. I don't really care that much about my outer appearance, and I know that, like, I'm a woman and I'm supposed to care about that. I refuse to wear makeup. I refuse to do certain things. I grew up with 4 brothers, and I grew up um, in childhood conditions that produce a lot of trauma. So a lot of poverty, a lot of moving around, divorce. My parents got divorced and had a tumultuous relationship the whole time. Like, I feel like I've always had to kind of be a grown up. And so it's hard to just feel like, oh, I can be feminine and I can just, think. I don't know. Maybe I hope I'm not being disrespectful to anybody that identifies that way, but I'm kind of like receiving rather than, having to do. Well, I enjoy the doing part. So I've always kind of identified as masculine. And I feel like martial arts has just kind of allowed me to integrate both of those. So my feminine and masculine, because like it's not that when I'm doing roles in jujitsu, I mean in other martial arts too, but specifically jujitsu, I'm receiving in some way, like, I'm allowing my training partner to train on me, so I'm, like, receiving that, and I have to be in a I can't just go 100%, if we're in a learning stage, like, I've gotta, like I've gotta receive so that they are able to train on me, and then vice versa, so I feel like jujitsu really allows that harmony to happen, um, and if you've never taken a class, you should totally do that. You should just take, like, a few classes just to experience it because I think you'd become addicted to it. Yeah, in the best way.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. I think the jujitsu community is pretty welcoming, and although I will right before I ask my last question, I'm curious about this, and I haven't ever talked to an Aikido practitioner, so I know that other martial arts are very critical of Aikido,
Mhm.
and but that's all I've ever heard is just the criticisms. How do you feel about that? Like, how does that hit you from other martial arts, like kind of cutting down Aikido?
There's some truth to it, and then there's not some truth to it. Actually, I remember talking to one Aikido practitioner, and she published like this giant biography of a Japanese Aikido teacher, and she said to me that like even in the 60s and 70s, there were magazine articles that criticized Aikido. So it's not technically anything new. So to answer your question, it doesn't make me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside when people continue to um you know crap on Aikido because that's kind of like my pride and joy. That's like that's something that I've had since childhood, and going through the history, especially kind of like that early history in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, there was something I feel, and from what people have told me, or at least remember, um, that there was something different about the training there compared to what the training is today. Um, there is a lot of different things that we can get into, um, but I don't want to bore you. But there is a change of train, approaches to training. There is people getting older, so those people who are in the 70s and 80s, or maybe even 60s, doing these high falls or heavy throws, are like, hey, I just sprained my ankle walking to the dojo. I don't want to do any of this. This hard throw, hard volley. So then training approaches had to change, especially when smaller organizations were becoming bigger, and they needed to standardize a specific curriculum. Um, then there's also kind of like what I mentioned before, is that a lot of these earlier practitioners had different training. So like what would be considered like jujitsu from their time, whether it's judo, karate, kendo, boxing, anything else in between. Mind you, those arts were trained completely different back then as well. They all had an idea how to apply these things. Not to mention that a good handful or a good majority of the Japanese pioneers, especially in the post-war era, grew up in a devastated and rebuilding Japan, which led to a lot of scuffles and even points with the yakuza and all this other criminal underworld. So like it's like it's over here in New Jersey facing off a mobster, and like, oh yeah, I just did that last week and I'm fine. You know what I mean? Like the approach to training, again, I'm just going back to that, but also like the makeup of the practitioners were really different. So then to get to the other part is that there's some criticisms that IKEA has kind of made for themselves, because there's also, if you're looking at it at the historical lens where it's changed over time, there hasn't been a lot of change. Yes, there's been a lot of change in training or training intensity or how you do X, Y, and Z. But the overall model of training hasn't really changed since the 60s. Um, and that's what, 60 years later now? Jujitsu has, for all intents and purposes, has changed since it was first introduced here in the United States. So, uh, y- so just to compare, there is again some falling on Aikido, but then there's some again, but there's also some really cool stuff in Aikido that the those those criticisms aren't really warranted because it's people that for being direct don't know what they're talking about. Like like I've never done a jujitsu class or a formal one, so I have no idea what I'm supposed to be expecting. It's kind of the same thing reversed. I know I went on like a whole monologue. I do apologize, but to go back to what you were saying a little bit ago, is that if you just come in and feel it, come in and experience it, whether it is it's a judo or jujitsu or an aikido thing, you just gotta feel it, and then you can make your mind up there. Since this is a physical art, there's some physicality to it. It's just a little different, and I do hope, and this will be my last thing. And I do hope that with my research that I can try and tilt like a a change in aikido so that it's not so the butt of every joke.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that's really why I invited you on my show is because I don't know anything about it and I can't just I'm not just a follower. I'm somebody that thinks for themselves. So I should become educated in something before I'm critical about it. So this is just opening the door for my audience as well to explore something that they probably haven't explored. So thank you for that, and thank you for coming on my show. I'm going to ask the final question, and then of course if you've got like social media handles and stuff, we can say it at the end, and I'll include it at the end of the episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So Antonio, my final question is, what does freedom mean to you?
Um, I'm really going to think about this.
Sure, take your time.
I guess freedom to do what you're passionate about, um, without encountering uh, the naysayers that said, "Hey, this is a bad idea." It's just it's just you being free to follow your passion and seeing where it goes,
Yeah.
not being deterred by again those naysayers or money or institutions. It's just being allowed to do that, and again without hurting anybody, but just to go and explore. Because I think without that, or anything that is remotely close to that, we as humans or as people start to become more automaton, or the machines of society.
Yeah. I agree with you. That's a great answer. And I'll add this. I feel like um from my perspective, we live in a dualistic world, and So the light and dark and good and bad, or however we categorize it. But I think that you can find freedom in all of that, that in the opposition, that perhaps it's just the way that we're handling the opposition that makes us feel like we're not free. But it's kind of a reminder, for those people have an issue with what I'm doing. Like, I wonder why. And maybe exploring it, and maybe there's some basis to it because I've experienced racism throughout my life, and recently moved from an environment where I was being harassed because I was the only person of color there. But to not view it as um, there's something wrong with me, like maybe there's a lesson to learn in that. Not maybe they're not telling the full truth. Maybe they're just telling from their perspective their truth. Their truth is that they're afraid, that they have fear, and all of their thoughts are fear-based thoughts. So perhaps there is freedom with that opposition, just knowing what the truth is. It's kind of reinforcing your truth and realizing what is not the truth in that experience. So that's what I got to share. Yeah.
No, it's all good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm grateful that you came on my show and educated me, and I hope that people can take something from this episode. Um, Antonio, tell me, or tell my audience, how to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one, thank you for having me on the show as well. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But you can find me at martial at martialarthistory.com. That's where you find a lot of my research, martial arts yesterday, today, tomorrow. You can find me on Facebook at martial arts YTT. You can find me on Instagram and X or Twitter at martial art history. You can also find me on Amazon. Uh, and then you can also find my two books, Takahiko Ishikawa, Judo's Quiet Master, and Aikido Comes to America, both on Amazon. I think so.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, I'll include all of those details at the end so people can just click the links and be connected with you. So, again, Antonio, thank you for coming on my show and educating all of us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate this conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much.